December 15, 2018. This must have been quite a date in the life of our next speaker, because that was the date that the first lab-grown whole muscle cultured steak was presented to the world. I'm very proud that she's here from the startup nation of this world, from Israel, Dr. Neta Lavon, Vice President for Research and Development at Aleph Farms.
Well, thank you very much. 2 years ago, I got a phone call from a colleague of mine, Galia. I was during work hours, and she asked me if I can spare a few minutes to have a private discussion. I took off my lab coat, stepped outside, sat on a bench in the sun, and I remember asking her, okay, what? And she asked me, do you want to be the R&D strategy leader of a company producing cell-based meat? And I asked, what? And she said, think about it. And I promised to sleep on it and get back to her the day after. And I closed the phone, sat in the sun, and thought to myself, I've been involved in the research of cell-based therapy for ALS patients in the past 80 years, and we're about to launch the clinical trials of our therapy. Am I going to move to produce food? I went back to the lab, and as scientists do, I went to the literature and I read the whole night. And then I realized that the impact of developing and producing cultured meat is much more stronger and important to the whole humanity. We can do something that is sustainable, much healthier for a wide population all over the world. And I called her the day after and I said, yes, I agree. And since then, in the last 2 years, I've been involved in Aleph Farm in a very important journey together with a team of researchers. So imagine the steak that we all know in the left panel. 5 years from now, a steak that is produced in sustainable, ethical, and much more healthier manner without any contamination. At Aleph Farms, we aim to change the way we produce meat in the next 5 years. I was lucky to join a very interesting, exciting, and great group of scientists and interpreters. Aleph Farms is headed by Didier Toubier, who founded the company together with the Technion Institute of Technology and the Strauss Group for Food. Together, I joined them for the strategy, and we developed the company. Professor Levenberg, she is actually a world expert in tissue engineering. And the company is based on the technology that she has been developing in her lab for the past 15 years. She has been involved in developing strategies and the research of tissues outside of the body, either cardiac or muscle tissues, mainly from human cells. She's involved in understanding what are the natural mechanisms that are responsible for regenerating our tissues every day. When we get older, this regeneration capacity gets lower. When we do workup, we do physical exercise, so this capacity gets higher. She is involved in understanding this mechanism and taking them from the live organism into a culture. And these technologies are the basis for Aleph Farm tissue engineering platform. Together with us, we have a team of experts in the different fields that are related to cultured meat. What I learned in the last 2 years is actually that it's not only cell biology. I'm a stem cell biology expert, but this is an interdisciplinary research. We need people from the food technology. We need people that are experts in bioreactors and large-scale production. We need regulatory experts, marketing, and of course, we have a chef that we didn't have in a biotech company. On the top of them, we have a great team of very dedicated scientists, researchers, 10 researchers working for Aleph Farm and developing the product that we are doing these days. This idea of cultured meat is actually not new. This idea evolved 90 years ago and was expressed by Winston Churchill in his book, Thoughts and Adventures. And he said, 50 years hence, we shall escape the absurdity of growing a whole chicken in order to eat the breast or the wing by growing these parts separately under a suitable medium. He was very much impressed by a friend of his, a scientist called Alexis Carrel, that was lucky to grow or develop the strategy how to grow organs outside of the animal. And he took it into food. What happened since these 90 years is that in the last 10 years, there have many developments in two fields that evolved the cellular agriculture revolution. The first field is the stem cells, cell biology, large-scale production, tissue engineering, everything that is related to biotechnology. And on the other hand, the food tech arena evolved very much in the last 5 years. These two fields together really help the development of cellular agriculture, and this is the term that I really like. We are really the new farmers. We are the farmers that are going to work hand in hand with conventional farmers together, bringing a variety of product for everyone: industrial meat, plant-based meat, and cultured meat. But it's not only that the innovation was evolving because of idea. There is a real need to find a solution for the current use of animals as a protein source, as a meat. And this need is actually expressed in this slide. You can see here, this is the usage of United States of land. It was published by Bloomberg this year. And it shows that more than a third of the land is used for cow pasture. And on the top of it, not small amount of land is used for the livestock feeding for these animals. And on the contrary, you can see in the light green that the food that we eat takes a very small share. We want to bring back the balance between the land that we use to feed humans and make it much bigger on the top of the, instead of growing cattle. On the top of the land use, there are also other resources that are vastly used in order to grow livestock. We know that water is consumed very strongly in order to grow the livestock. 15,000 liters of water are calculated to be used in order to grow 1 kilogram of meat that we consume. We have to grow this cow at least 2.5 years. On the top of it, 70% of antibiotics that are currently used today in the world are used for livestock growth. It is minimizing because there is more of awareness about this topic, but still 53% of the farms in the US are still using antibiotics when they grow the livestock. And of course, it brings the problem of antibiotic resistance and resistant pathogens that are really harming the human beings. On the top of it, we know that there are sometimes outbreaks and recalls about food contaminations, and many people are hospitalized because of these issues, and in some cases it even causes death. We need to find a solution for all these technical issues, and of course on the top of it, the ethical issues. Do we really want to use 56 billion animals every year, not including the fish, in order to have the meat that we all consume? We really want to solve it. So what is Aleph Farm is presenting and offering is a safe, traceable, and transparent solution. Instead of growing the cattle, breeding them, feeding them, transporting them from these huge lands into the supermarkets that we want, into the slaughterhouses, and then to our houses through processing, we have a process that is much shorter. Instead of 2.5 years, our process takes 3 to 4 weeks. We take a small biopsy of cells from the cow, we grow it, we expand these cells, and then we differentiate. We give them the cues to turn into the different cell types that comprise the muscle tissue. It's not only muscle cells, it's muscle cells, blood vessel cells, fat cells, and stromal cells, which are the connective tissue around these cells. With everything together, we build a tissue in three-dimensional structure. We have the conditions to grow these cells together in one suitable growth medium, and then make them form a tissue in 3D structure, a tissue that have the same texture and brings the same experience as the steaks that we all like. So I want to end up with sharing you the prototype that we have just released, as you have mentioned, the prototype that we have just released by the end of December this year, and that really shows our vision and what are we planning to launch as our product. This is a small piece of meat, but it really shows what are we planning to do.
Aleph Farms are excited to announce a game-changing moment in cellular meat history. We're getting closer to our vision of creating a cellular steak, providing the experience, look, and feel of the steak we all know.
We've successfully produced the first pieces of beef steak grown from natural cells without harming any animals. Meat is a complex tissue. This breakthrough includes various cell types found in conventional cuts of meat grown together outside the animal to form a 3D structure similar to meat, but using more sustainable, safe, and ethical methods. These first cell-based meat cuts demonstrate our capability of achieving our vision of growing steaks.
This meat had a great look and the original texture of a steak.
Finally, meat you can enjoy that's good for your health and the planet from Aleph Farms.
Thank you very much. Okay. I want to conclude, thank you very much. I want to conclude my talk with a comment about hydroponic growth. We see cultured meat the same as conventional industrial meat, the same end product in a different production process, the same as the hydroponic growth of vegetable, the same end product made in the different production methodology. And I want to thank you, I want to thank ProVeg for inviting me to talk here, and especially Nathalie Roland, and she's the cellular agriculture expert. And thank you for your attention. I will take questions. Thank you.
Dr. Lavon, thank you so much for your fascinating presentation and this really inspiring movie also of the next generation steak. Indeed, let's take 2 questions. First, I see a hand over there. You have now still a mic?
On the table there.
Oh, here, take this one. Okay. Thank you. Please state your name and organization and your question.
Stefan Wilke, Green Food 50. Thank you very much for the presentation. In order to make novel food successful and in order to change the habits of the people that consume already a lot of meat, you have to reach a broad audience, let's say a broad membership of consumers. My question is this kind of novel meat product also suitable for people that consider kosher and halal food? Is this, do you can say something about that?
Yes, thank you. It's a great question. Well, I would need at least a half an hour to explain what is coming behind the cultured meat and kosher and halal. But we know, we have some discussion with rabbis, and there is a way to make it kosher. It depends what would be the cell types that we choose to work with as the source cells and what would be the methodology of producing it. But indeed, it can be kosher. It will be meat, not parv, but still there is a possibility to make it kosher, and we are on to it. We are speaking to the rabbis, understanding how do we have to do it.
Good question, Stefan. Thank you very much. One more question.
Hi, I am Dario Pistone from the University of Bergen, Norway. You raised a very interesting point when you mentioned the contamination. Have you experienced serious problem with contaminations? I mean, without the intestines, probably you don't have Enterobacteriaceae members involved, but still, mycoplasma, virus, bacteria, was it a big problem or not?
Thank you. So really emphasizing the importance of, or the change in producing cultured meat opposed to conventional industrial meat. We don't have the slaughter process, so we don't have any exposure to the bacteria that are inside the gut of the animal. So the whole process can be made in closed system in sterile conditions. When we work with the cell line, when we chose our cell source, we're not planning to go back to the animals every time. We're going to take a biopsy of cell, characterize it fully to be clean for pathogen, from mycoplasma, from viruses, and create frozen cell banks. A huge amount of ampules that each one of them will be a batch to grow meat. So in this way, we also secure the raw materials and the process themselves. Thank you.
A big hand for Dr. Neta Lavon. Thank you so much.